Of our book, The New World Order by Ralph Epperson, Chapter 7, Serpent, Stars, and Suns. So the student of history has to discover the hidden meanings behind the symbol in Masonic literature and in the secret initiation ceremonies to understand the Masonic order. One of the first symbols that needs to be examined is the symbol of the serpent, also called a snake or dragon. Manly P. Hall wrote in his book, The Secret Teaching of All Ages, among nearly all these ancient peoples, the serpent was accepted as a symbol of wisdom. That is true. The serpent is a symbol of wisdom. Here, Mr. Hall states that the serpent was a symbol of wisdom. It will be remembered that the Lord Maitreya, the future New Age leader, also claimed to possess wisdom. Mr. Hall continued, serpent worship in some form has permeated nearly all parts of the earth. The serpent is the symbol and prototype of the universal Savior who redeems the world by giving creation the knowledge of itself and the realization of good and evil. And then Mr. Hall links the serpent with the ancient mysteries previously discussed. He continues with the comment that the serpent was worshipped by the priests of that religion. That's deep. That's deep. The priests of the mysteries were symbolized as a serpent, sometimes called Hydra. He then pointed out that the ancient mysteries have been passed on to various other cultures and that they have been brought forward to the present day. The Serpent Kings noticed that Mr. Hall capitalized the two words as one would do for a deity or for royalty reign over the earth. It was these Serpent Kings who founded the mystery schools, which later appeared as the Egyptian and the Brahmin mysteries. The serpent was their symbol. They were the true sons of light, and from them have descended a long line of adepts and initiates duly tried and proven according to the law. Another writer, Wilford Gregson, informed his readers why Mr. Hall capitalized the two words serpent kings. One symbol of the great prominence throughout all ancient civilizations is the snake of the serpent, where it was symbolized as divine wisdom. So Mr. Hall had reason to capitalize the words because he had discovered that the serpent represented divinity. Notice also that Mr. Gregson, even through even though he chose not to capitalize the word serpent, confirmed that Mr. Hall's use of the capital letter was correct when he stated there was a connection between divine wisdom and the serpent. Mr. Hall states the serpent is the true principle of wisdom, for it tempts man to the knowledge of himself. That's deep. A serpent is often used by the ancients to symbolize wisdom. The symbol of the serpent has another concealed truth. According to Kenneth McKenzie, he wrote it was a type of mediator and a promise of redemption. Oh, that's deep. That's deep about this serpent. The word brazen is defined as bold or impudent, and impudent is defined as shamelessly bold or disrespectful. It will be remembered that Lucifer was an anointed cherub in heaven who fell because he sought godly power. The story is covered in Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 to 14 of the Old Testament. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground? For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will be like the Most High. Therefore, it can be safely said that Lucifer would be considered to be shamelessly bold and disrespectful. It appears that the brazen serpent could be Lucifer. Another author, John West, wrote a book entitled Serpent in the Sky, in which he also connected the serpent with wisdom. The serpent represents intellect, the faculty by which man discriminates. There is a higher and lower intellect, a higher and lower self. Thus, symbolically, there is a serpent that crawls, and the higher intellect that which allows man to know God, the heavenly serpent, the serpent in the sky. The somewhat veiled worship of the serpent in the sky inside the Masonic lodges was alluded to by another Masonic writer, Kenneth McKenzie, in his book, The Royal Masonic Cyclopedia. He wrote, among the charges preferred against the Order of Knights Templar, for which Jacques de Lorme suffered martyrdom, was that the worshiping an idol or image called the Baphomet. It has been suggested that the Baphomet is none other than the Ancient of Days or Creator. More cannot be said here without improperly revealing what meaning we the Masons are bound to heal, conceal, and never reveal. So according to this Mason, the sacred serpent is somehow a symbol of the subject of Masonic worship, and apparently this fact is the secret that Masons cannot reveal to the rest of the world. A Christian minister, Reverend Alexander Hislop, wrote a book that entitled Some Discussions on the Subject. In his book, Two Babylons, he explained that serpent worship was not something that is recent in time. Along with the sun, this symbol we'll discuss later as the great fire god, and in due time identified with him was the serpent worship. In the mythology of the primitive world, the serpent is a universal symbol of the sun. As the sun was the great enlightener of the physical world, so the serpent was held to have been the great enlightener of the spiritual by giving mankind the knowledge of good and evil. He then discussed a coin minted in Tyre, the center of the ancient Phoenician culture. In mythology, Asclepius was believed to be the child of the sun and thus the enlightener of mankind. As the legend goes, Asclepius was ultimately struck down by a thunderbolt thrown by an angry Zeus, king of the gods, cast in the underworld. The true stump represented the fallen god and has ruined kingdom. In the mythology of many ancient civilizations, the image of a fallen tree was used to symbolize the cutting off of the great god or hero, someone cut off in the midst of their power. The snake on the coin was shown twisting itself around the dead stump, exerting its power in an attempt to restore his fallen kingdom. The Bible talks about a fallen serpent in the book of Revelations, chapter 12, verse 8. However, in this case, the snake is connected to another symbol of the serpent, a great dragon. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called devil and Satan. In the serpent worship in the ancient mysteries and a symbol in the Masonic ceremonies, a symbol of Satan, the devil. As has already been discussed, there is indeed evidence that this is the case. Another symbol that needs to be analyzed is the star. In Mackey's encyclopedia, there's a drawing illustrating the symbols of Freemasonry. Let me see. It can be fairly claimed that a blazing or shooting star would be one that was on the move inside the universe. One of the directions it could move would be towards the earth. If it was moving towards the earth, it would be called a falling star. Lucifer is a fallen angel according to Isaiah, an Old Testament prophet who wrote this in Isaiah 14:12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? Notice that Isaiah also said that Lucifer fell from heaven, and other parts of the Bible report that he fell to earth. So it is conceivable that the symbol of the falling or blazing star could be a symbol of Lucifer. A variety of authors have used their writings to disclose the star as a symbol. Professor Adam Weishaupt, the founder of the Illuminati, was one who explained what he considered the star to be a symbol of. The falling star is a torch of reason. Mr. Mackey wrote that the star was a symbol of God. He then connected the blazing star to another symbol when he wrote, the blazing star refers to us as the sun. And then he connected with the secret initiation ceremonies inside the Masonic Lodge. In the fourth degree of the same rite, the Scottish rite of Freemasonry, the blazing star is again said to be a symbol light of divine providence pointing out the way to truth. And Mr. Hutchins, the Masonic writer who has authored the recent book on Freemasonry, further interpreted the symbol of the star as, I'm tired, y'all, the star as a type of a myriad suns that light other countless systems of the world into the emblem of that Masonic light in search of which every Mason travels the correct knowledge of the deity and of his laws that control the universe. Closely allied with the symbol of the star is the symbol of the sun. Albert Pike wrote, the worship of the sun became the base of all of the religions of iniquity. Thousands of years ago, men worshipped the sun. They did. Originally, they looked beyond the orb to the invisible God, and they worshiped because the sun brought life. They personified him as Brahma, Amun, Osiris, Baal, Adonis. Ooh, I'm so glad I named my son Adonis. Oh my God. Adonis, Melkarth, Maitreya, and Apollo. Krishna is the Hindu sun god. The gods worship the sun under the name of Belin or Belenus. The sun is the ancient symbol of the life-giving and generative power of the deity. The sun was his manifestation and visible image. The sun is the hypergraphical a sign of truth because it is the source of light. I just said that, y'all. I just said that. So Mr. Pike identified the sun as a symbol of a deity that should be worshipped. He chose to capitalize the first letter in the word, the S, as one would and recognize the name of a deity. Albert McKay repeated Mr. Pike's contentions with one comment, a sun worship. It was the oldest and by far the most prevalent of all ancient religions. Eusebius says that the Phoenicians and the Egyptians were the first who ascribed divinity to the sun. Hardly any of the symbols of masonry are more important in their signification or more extensive in their application than the sun as a source as material light. It minds the masons of their intellectual light, of which he is in constant search. The sun is then presented to us in masonry, first as a symbol of light, but then more emphatically as a symbol of sovereign authority. So the sun was a symbol of something that only the believers in the religion known as the ancient mysteries understood. These believers, called adepts, certainly know that the people would not accept a mystery religion, so they had to conceal it from them. So the task became one of creating a religion around a belief that they knew the people would accept, because it would make more sense, at least as far as the adepts would explain it. But their basic purpose was to create a popular religion as a cover for their secret worship. The secret religion would be built around a belief in the sun. The sun would be the perfect thing to build a religion around because of its basic nature. It is very visible and has a very important role in man's life. It rises in the morning as it appears to be born, and then sets during the evening as it appears to die, and then appears to be born again the next morning, and also appears to wander in the sky, setting further north or south each night. It then returns back to any given position twice a year. So the sun appears to have a major birth or death twice each day and twice each year. It would be very easy for the adepts to explain to the people that the only something bigger than mankind, a God, had the ability to die and come back to life. So the adepts would teach the people that they had to pray to a God or it would choose not to return. They encouraged a worship of the sun so that it could return to mankind again either once a day or once every 6 months. Albert Pike wrote, "To them, meaning early man, the journeys of the sun were voluntarily and not mechanical." So early man considered the sun to be something that moved voluntarily. In other words, the sun did not have to return each morning. Man must have quickly determined that since the sun did not have to return, man should start asking it to return. To make the new religion work, the believers will have to be able to predict the movements of the sun. It wouldn't be long before some of the common people would start noticing that the sun was neither an actual being nor a god to be worshipped, but something that moved according to precise laws. If the common people figured that out, they would not need the adepts who had computed the sun's periodic cycles. So to keep their power intact, they would teach the people that if they did not accommodate their wishes, they would make certain that the sun did not return. Oh, that's deep there. That's deep. They would even predict, as their measurements become more sophisticated, the exact time of day when the moon would go between the sun and the earth, causing the sun to disappear. They could then fool the people into believing that they were the cause of the disappearance. You can't make this up. They could then explain to the people that if they did not continue to pay them sort of tribute, they would not intercede in their behalf and the sun would not reappear. Wow. Wow. To keep the minds of the common people away from figuring out that the whole religion was a scam, the adepts would conduct beautiful Orient ceremonies around the worship of the sun, and they would expect the people to pay them for their elaborate rituals. And to make their rituals valid, the adepts will always claim that the sun obeyed their prayers. thereby convincing the people of their need to keep the adepts around. The people will continue to pay tribute to these adepts as long as they appear to be successful. Wow. Now, if the adepts knew that the sun was a symbol of something that the people would not support, such as a belief that Lucifer, the devil, was the God that they worshiped, they would have to continue with their charade so that the people would not decide to stop worshiping. Because if the people figure it out, they would no longer support their activities. This could have to keep their beliefs from the people and conceal their secret worship and hidden symbols, so some worship as a religion prospered. Mr. Hutchins wrote, in the tabernacle, the breathing, clothed in black, mourn Osiris, who is the representative of the sun, of the light, of the life, of the good and beauty. They reflect upon the way the earth may again be gladdened by his presence. Mr. Pike connected the sun to Osiris, mentioned by Mr. Hutchins. The three lights at the altar inside the Masonic temple represent Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Osiris was represented by the sun. And that's where the Trinity came from Osiris and Isis had Horus, and that's where your Trinity came from. Osiris, Mr. Mackey said Osiris was the sun. In his book entitled Introduction to Freemasonry, Carl Claudy said the lodge sets him, meaning the initiate, upon the path that leads to light, but it is for him to travel the winding path to the symbolic east. The physical sun rises in the east, and the Masons explained that their search for light begins in the east. And notice that Mr. Colley capitalized the words east, apparently in reference to the spot where they believe that the God resides. The Masons tell the world that they circumambulate, defined as walking around the temple floor during their initiation ceremonies. Mr. Claudy explains, when the candidate first circles the large room about the altar, he walks step by step, through 1,000 shades of men who thus worship the Most High by humble initiation. Thus, taught a circumambulation is no longer a mere parade, but a ceremony of significance, linking all who take part in it with the spiritual aspirations of a dim and distant past. He further instructs his readers, early man circled altars on which burned the fire which was his God, from east to west by way of south. Notice that the north is not included in the ceremony. The significance of that omission will be discussed later. In another part of the book entitled Introduction to Freemasonry, Mr. Colley wrote, circumambulation was in the ceremonies of ancient Egypt. So this practice of modern Masons is based upon the ancient religious practices of the ancient. So the Masons are telling us that early man walked around in a circle because he was worshiping the sun. Then they tell us they are doing it for the same reason. Wow. There are reasons that the north as a location to be visited in their walk around the temple floor is not included in their initiation rites. And 6 of the great Masonic writers have told us this. Captain William Morgan said, we therefore masonically term the north a place of darkness. Oh, wow. Wow. Mr. McKay confirmed The North is Masonically called a place of darkness. And Mr. Fight confirmed the comments. To all Masons, the North has immediately been a place of darkness, and the great lights of the lodge, none is in the North. And Kenneth McKenzie wrote, the North was always esteemed a place of darkness. Mr. Hutchinson became the fifth Masonic hero. As in other degrees, the closing ritual provides a summary of the lessons taught in the degree. We hear in the West the eagles gather and the doom of tyranny is near. In the South, truth struggles against error and oppression. In the East, the people begin to know their rights and to be conscious of their dignity, and that the sun rays will soon smite the summits of the mountains. Wow. And another writer, Carl Longley, he wrote, the place of darkness is the North. This is deep. Wow. So as they talking about North America, up north is a place of darkness up here. Wow. And the reason the Masons do not include the North in their rights is found in the Bible, Isaiah 14:13. I, meaning Lucifer, will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will set also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. The God of the Bible sits in the north, and Lucifer hopes one day to acquire the throne of God for his throne. But until then, the north is a place of darkness. But while the north is excluded territory, the east is a place of light and is to be revered. Mr. Hutchins says the east, the source of light and thus knowledge. Albert Mackey says the veneration which the Masons have for the east bears a relation to the primitive religion whose first degradation was sun worship. Rex Hutchins, he writes, during the initiation ceremony for the 25th degree, called the Night of the Sun, he writes, the ceiling should be decorated to represent the heavens with the moon, the principal planets, and the constellation Taurus and Orion. A single powerful light, a great globe of glass representing the sun, is in the south. In the physical sense, the greater light comes from the sun, and transparencies provide lesser light. Symbolically, the sun of great light is the truth, and the lesser lights are man's symbolic representation of the truth. Mr. Mackey, he says that the right exists in Freemasonry. The people always walk 3 times around the altar while singing a sacred hymn. In making this procession, great care was taken to move in imitation of the course of the sun. He then asserted the reader to understanding this rite of circumambulation undoubtedly refers in the doctrine of sun worship. However, in another other book he wrote, Manual of the Lodge, the circumambulation among the pagan nation referred to the great doctrines Sabiism, Sabaism, or sun worship. Sabiism is defined by Mr. Mackey. Sabiism, Sabaism, the worship of the sun, moon, and stars, the host of heaven. It was practiced in Persia, Claudia, India, and other Oriental countries at an early period of the world's history. He then wrote, and although the dogma of sun worship does not, of course, exist in Freemasonry, we find an allusion to it in the rite of circumambulation, which it preserves. One can understand what Mr. McKay meant by that comment. The Masons do not worship the sun, they worship the sun. Wow. So he was telling the truth but concealing it in a symbolic license. Mr. Hutchins volunteered information that in the 12th of the 32nd degree, the rite of circumambulation, he wrote, in all the Scottish Rite degrees thus far, the candidate has made 21 prescribed circuits around the altar. This degree adds 7 for a total of 28. This practice called circumambulation is derived from the ancients and existed among the Romans, Semites, Hindus, and others. It is thought to have been a rite of purification. The sun was believed to travel around the earth. The initiates initiate the movement of the sun when they made circuits around the altar. Furthermore, in the ninth degree, he says, after the obligation is taken, the 9 candles of yellow wax are lit. Yellow is representation of the sun's hits, light, and knowledge. In the 10th degree, there are 3 sets of 5 lights. The wax is yellow, meaning knowledge, and also as the color of the sun represents to the deity. Other clues that the sun and serpent are both known symbols of Masonic Lodge are given by the titles of 2 of the 32nd degrees inside the Masonic Lodge. The 25th degree initiate is called a Knight of Brazen Serpent. Wow. And the 28th degree is called a Knight of the Sun. There is a number symbol of the sun inside the Masonic Lodge. The worshipful master, the equivalent of the president of the lodge, sits in the east side of the temple. We are told that the worshipful master represents the sun at its rising. The senior warden, another officer of the lodge, represents the sun at its setting. And the junior warden, still another officer of the lodge, represents the sun at noontime or half point. Other individuals and other organizations are involved in varying degrees with sun worship. Elizabeth Clare Prophet has been described as being a leader in the New Age movement. She wrote, the healing of the nation begins with the healing of ourselves. We must draw forth from the great central sun that eternal light with which we were anointed from the beginning. Adolf Hitler, the head of the German government prior to and during World War II, and who was directly responsible for the unaliving of over 50 million people, was also a sun worshiper. Very early in life, he joined a secret society called the Thule Society. We got one here, and it's in Berkeley, and I went to it. Yes, I did, and sat for a reading. And I got the hell out of there because they wanted to invite me to a meeting up in Lansing. I'm like, they trying to kill me or what? I never went back. But anyway, and 40 years after the war, some historians are finally delving into his strange belief. 2 of the writers, Michael Bertrand and Jean Angeli, have produced a book called The Occult and the Third Reich. In the Nazi cosmology, the sun played a prime role as a sacred symbol of the Aryans, in contrast to the feminine and magical symbolism of the moon governed by the Semite people. The Nazi Party was the name of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the party that Mr. Hitler joined. It became the controlling party of the German government. But sun worship, as the nations point out, is not new. The Bible talks about it as well. Ezekiel was an Old Testament prophet, and he wrote Ezekiel 8:15-16. And he, the Lord God, brought me up into the inner court of the Lord's house. And behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple of the Lord, and they worshiped the sun toward the east. There you go. There you go. And Ezekiel points out that the Lord God considered this practice an abomination. There's another reference to sun worship in Deuteronomy 17:2-4 that reference it. If there be found among you man or woman that have gone and served other gods and worshiped them, either the sun or the moon or any of the most of heaven, and it be true that such an abomination is brought unto Israel, so thou shalt put the evil away from among you. So the God of the Bible has made it clear that sun worship is something that he does not want his creatures practicing. The Bible even went so far to say in both instances that this was an abomination. But to show just how this practice was invaded into the Christian community, the following prayer was offered up at a recent funeral in a local Christian church. Now you will feel no rain for your mother. The earth will fold her arms around you. Now you will feel no cold for your father. The sun will always warm you. Sun worship continues because some Christian churches pray to the sun god in their church services and don't understand who they are praying to. Simply stated, the sun god that they are praying to is Lucifer. I always tell y'all, Satan go and preach every Sunday. He preach every Sunday. He be right there on the pulpit. I'm going to go ahead and do this part because it's only like one page. This chapter 8. The student of esoteric language and concealed symbols must study being referred to as Lucifer, Satan, or devil in the Bible. But before that study commences, the author has to take an unusual step and attempt to clarify his position. I had endeavored to write this book as a historian, carefully basing my conclusions on my own research into the writings of people involved. I have literally read hundreds of works on the subject of this book and have attempted to record those comments as accurately as possible. Although I am Christian, I have tried not to let my religious views color my thinking on the subject of this book. As I said, I've tried to write this book not as a religious writer, but as a historian who has discovered that history has been a series of planned events, everything planned, led by a conspiracy based upon a worship of Lucifer. Facts. I believe that it is possible to show that this is a fact of history, not as a religious writer, but as a historian, and that is what I have attempted to do in this book. I have on occasion quoted the Bible and will do so in the remaining material whenever the context seems to be warranted. At the very least, for the skeptic, the Bible is a magnificent record of a history of a particular group of people during particular periods of the past. I have used the Bible as I have used any other book, as a book of history. But it's always been to make a counterpoint in a specific instance where the historical facts seem to indicate that the use of a Bible warranted. In this instance, it becomes important to start with the reading of a particular section of the Bible and then show how others not known for their belief in God or the Bible have also chosen to believe that section as well. It is hoped that the reader can understand the significance of what I've just written. It will make the reading of the remaining material a little easier to understand. Chapter 9, we're going to get to chapter 9, Lucifer worship. That will not be today. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Good night. I am tired.